Grand Rising, God morning, love tubers. I've been playing with the internet for about 20 minutes now. Restarted the phone. Tried using StreamYard, wouldn't connect. Turned my auto connect, turned it back on. We are now live. I call those glitches in the system when it involves technology. But here we are, and we're going to start with some breathing exercises and go from there. Absolutely. Let's breathe. We are thankful for a new day. We are thankful for the time we have together. We are thankful for all the glitches before we arrive to work out kinks for the future. Hallelujah. We are thankful to the librarians who have scheduled this delicious time for us to spend together. We are thankful for Mia that dropped us off at the library today. I called her Mama Mia. No limit soldier. We are thankful for the lessons learned before the library and the lessons learned after conversation and when we leave the library, and for all the interactions in between. Awesome. Speaking of librarian, I had no idea. I don't even think I wrote the book name down. Omar Sexy, Omar Epps, is an author. Me and the ladies at the desk talk all the time. She says, "Did you know Omar Epps is an author?" Let me flip the book over. And it's him on the back cover. And the artwork was absolutely scrumptious. It had some Nubian queens on it. I said, oh, Omar is getting down. I didn't know. Let me see if I wrote this name down in this book. He was into, I knew he did movies, but I didn't know he was into literature like that. Sometimes I'll write something down on the fly and go back to it later. Let's see. No. I'll look for it later. But yeah, the book looks absolutely scrumptious. Let's get started. I like it when they share information with me. They talk to me about podcasts that they listen to and things of that nature, so I can go back and investigate. I love that we use, I love how we use the different scriptures each day. And the different interpretations. Yesterday's session was pretty quick. So I included it. What I didn't discuss in my Substack from yesterday. All right. Let's talk about a few things after scripture. Welcome to day 27. The blessed with true riches. Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of the Lord brings true riches, and he adds no sorrow to it, for it comes as a blessing from God. Amplified Bible. The Lord's blessing makes a person rich, and no trouble is added to it. Common English Bible. It is the Lord's blessing that makes you wealthy. Hard work can make you no richer. Good News Translation. Well, they're certainly right there. A raise is not going to make you richer. Honey. Switching from a 15 to a 20 to a 25 to a 30 to a 40 to a $50 hourly job, it's not going to make you richer. Working 2-3 jobs, definitely not going to make you richer. Struggle love is not going to make you richer. Just saying it as it comes. 60 hours a week, not going to make you richer. Although you can save money. You can put some money aside, maybe. Your 401. Try to get to that $1 million plan in exchange for your energy and life's purpose. You could. Miss all those books you're going to write. Good books, movies, plays, teachings. You can. You can do the hard work of struggle and long suffering. Because the world loves it when you are not living at your highest self, because misery loves company, and struggling. That's what I got out of that scripture. Shares. Plural. Okay. Yeah. So is it double the pleasure that we get these cosmic blessings? Or are we going through struggle, love, and suffering? Long suffering to get the cosmic blessings, or to get blessings, if you call them that. Are they blessings? Mm. If we're having to work so hard for them, let's talk about the conversation with God King Life real quick. Not everything, because it was a mastermind class on the fly. I'll just touch a bit on it because it was so delicious, and then we're going to get into Elijah and Jezebel and the king in Kings 20, might be 19. We did 21 and 22 last night, I believe. Might be Kings 20 that I did it on. And then, yeah, check out Carlos. He's on Facebook, or God King Life, Poet God King Life, part of my international poetry whole group. That mastermind session was phenomenal. We discussed AI versus personal creative work and how that works with the government as far as copyright and intellectual property. We also covered book covers and manuscripts and how they're treated in regards to uh, copyright and intellectual property. We discussed things like proof of ownership, AI video productions. I'm going to have him do some of my video work. Traditional video marketing. We talked about expenses in some areas that they got going on right now with some of these. Y'all seen that commercial? I don't know what kind of ad y'all get on YouTube, but a lot of times I get the AI ad with I don't know what nationality she is. Beautiful plus size woman with the long hair. I get that ad. She wants to teach about AI. I did join one of them classes. And only one, because I'm thinking you're doing a mastermind class. It's only going to last maybe an hour, 2 hours tops. And the class lasts all day. Listen, lady. And every time I pop up, I had to put it, don't send me no more of these ads. Another ad I got, since I'm on Suno, is an ad that comes on and says, now that you've done your production in Suno, go ahead and it's time to make your AI video. Baby. Except that if you do make the video, all I'm going to say is the music, poetry, whatever your craft is, you're going to spend some change. Be wise where you spend your change at. Oh, hello, Yetran 286. YENTRAN 286. So, yeah, because if you buy a membership, the one that says if you're using Suno, you need to do, you can do the AI videos with us. You buy a membership, but then you're going to spend a lot of money. Oh, I'm sorry, energy exchange. Buying credits. So that was one of the things discussed. We talked about marketing reels, publishing strategies, traditional publishing, self-publishing, editing versus marketing, endorsements, marketing analysis, marketing packages, being a scholar of the craft, branding, book cover design tips, printing considerations, metadata, and searchability, interior book design, hashtags, trading, and branding, celebrity outreach. Oh, I've got to send him the video. That I told him I would send him of one of the poets that I've had the pleasure of being on stage with, and she's gone very far in her success, but still struggles. We don't like struggle love. We're allergic. Okay. Generational wealth, discernment, and the industry, of course. Receiving support, personal conversation, writing for future tribe, because you're not writing for your family and friends, you are writing for your future tribe. Receiving support as in outside of family and creating your own community. We had some personal conversations in regards to family. Personal transformation through loss. All right, and we discussed favorite actors and things of that nature, or writers. Key takeaways. I will go through that. Protect your original creative work through proper copyright registration and documentation. Use AI strategically, but preserve your own creative authorship. Start with affordable marketing methods before investing heavily in AI-generated videos. Build a recognizable brand with consistent design, metadata, and promotional material. Negotiate publishing and marketing arrangement carefully, retaining ownership whenever possible. Focus on serving your future audience rather than seeking validation from family and friends. View your work as a vehicle for education, legacy, and generational worth. Wealth, my fault. Pain can become purpose when an artist chooses to create work that heals, inspires, and uplifts others. One thing seemed to surface throughout the entire mastermind class. Your work should outlive you. Whether discussing copyright, publishing, marketing, branding, poetry, music, or generational wealth, the conversation repeatedly returns to the idea that creators should build lasting intellectual property and write for the people who need their message, not merely for those closest to them. Carlos, poet God King Life, owned transformation after his father, no longer being with us, may he rest in peace and power, served as a living example of that philosophy, illustrating how personal experiences can deepen an artist's purpose and legacy. That was the short version. We got some people in the chat. Happy Superior 4099, are you okay? Yes, baby, I'm all right, love. Jester-0-I2I. Hi, Sugar Dumpling. Oh, at HeapFez Zapper 4009, you look sad. No, very grateful. Welcoming another day, baby. What type of live is it? We are on 40 Money Spells. We have done the scriptures for today out of 40 Money Scriptures. And that was Proverbs 10:22, blessed with true riches, Amplified, Common, and Good News Translation. We're going to be talking about a few things relevant to what we're about to get into next, but the topic is 40 Money Spells. Welcome to the channel. I'm a witch. We like to do spells around here. Speaking of spells, one of the things that stuck out to me that we talked about when I talked with him on Sunday is None of the books, he said, should have any blank pages as an author. That is it. That is your card. That is your book. That is your uh, opportunity to showcase your skill set and your artwork. So I have already started drafting for the book Cosmic Orgasms. I think I only need like 6 pieces of artwork. And so I said, well, the book's called Cosmic Orgasms. So what kind of artwork am I going to put in this book? So I went and I looked through some of the pictures I have on my phone and that I favor or like the best that reminded me of some very happy times. And well, I can't put boudoir pictures in there. I got in trouble for doing that once through KDP. I've had boudoir sessions. Those are lovely. If you haven't had one, ladies or gentlemen, I guess men can have boudoir sessions. I don't know. I've never seen a man who's had boudoir sessions, but I've had two boudoir sessions as a woman, and they are just. And what you do during that, that's French, by the way, is you dress up in real sexy lingerie. You get your hair done, your nails done. Um, you get your makeup done, and you put little ornaments in your hair if you want to. You switch out your earrings. You wear different earrings, and you have pictures taken in them. Best experience as a woman to have. If you haven't had one, you should have one. Absolutely delicious, scrumptious. I rated a 10 out of 10. Anyway, the person who took my pictures for my boudoir session was Lewis King. He's on Facebook and Instagram. And I knew I could not use those particular pictures in the book since I had gotten in trouble for trying to put them in the book before on through KDP. They said, "Nah, lady, we will turn down this whole entire page. I can't do that." But I said, well, what if I've got like some workout clothes or like some of them booty shorts on, things of that nature, some maybe yoga attire, and because I like to do yoga, maybe if I do it in some of those or something that has a little bit more covering on it, maybe I can use that as artwork. So for the creative idea, uh, I got like me doing a yoga pic, stretching across the cosmos, holding a ball of light. Um, I've got me birthing the sun, surrounded by stars. I've got me sitting on the moon. I've got me standing in the Milky Way. I've got me walking on clouds and hills so far. Let's see. In Pink Hills, actually. Um, Nebula. What did I do with me on the nebula? I think I was shooting it across the sky, but I'm not sure. It was pretty early. So I'm working on those right now. That might leave one more to do once I perfect what I got going on as far as the details in the graphic. So that's what I've come up with for the blank pages so far of the book Cosmic Orgasms, since it should not have not one blank page. I am teaching, baby. Absolutely, sugar. I'm teaching right now. Let's get into today's lesson before we do 40 money spells. Since I have been with the witches each day, the coven, we're going to discuss uh, it was Kings 20. We've already discussed Kings 19. We're going to go from there. We've got some shattering to do. All right. First Kings 20 shifts the lens away from the individual prophetic magic of Elijah and focuses, we do not look at this through a Sunday school lens. We look at this through esoteric lens, okay? Because we like magic around here. The magic of Elijah and focuses squarely on raw, brutal territorial warfare and state-level sorcery. King Ben-Hadad of Syria, Aram, arrives with massive coalition of 32 kings, cavalry, and war chariots to lay siege to Samaria. He demands King Ahab's gold, silver, best wives, and children as booty. From an occult and esoteric perspective, the most critical moment of this entire chapter hinges on the ancient concept we discussed earlier, the geographical jurisdiction of gods. The magical mistake god of the hills. After King Arab secures a surprise miraculous victory against the Syrians in the first battle, Ben-Hadad's military advisors huddle up to figure out what went wrong. Their conclusion is a perfect example of ancient territorial theology. Their gods are gods of the hills, and so they were stronger than we. But let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we will be stronger than thee. 1 Kings 20:23. In an ancient mind, deities were completely bound by typography and lines on a map, the Syrian logic. They believed Yahweh's power grid was localized strictly to mountain peaks, high altitudes, and rocky terrain like Mount Sinai or Mount Carmel. They assured that if they turned Ahab's army down into flat valleys, Yahweh's frequency would drop to zero, allowing the Syrian deities to dominate the plains with their heavy chariot divisions. The universal override. To smash this localized theological boundary, an unnamed prophet approaches Ahab and delivers an ultimatum from Yahweh. Because the Syrians tried to reduce the divine to a mere regional mountain spirit, Yahweh executes a total omnipotent override to protect his reputation as the supreme architect. When the two armies clash on the flat plains of Aphek, A-P-H-E-K, the text uses a striking energetic visual. The Israelites look into the two little flocks of goats while the Syrian army completely covers the countryside. Yet the Israelites absolutely decimate the Sirens, unaliving 100,000 foot soldiers in a single day, followed by a city wall collapsing on 27,000 more, because the Bible loves to use big numbers. It was a brutal demonstration that Yahweh's energetic current was not bound by altitude, geography, or terrain. The toxic royal sympathy and prophetic curse. True to the gritty political reality of these books, the chapter ends with Ahab making a massive strategic and karmic blunder. Ben-Hadad surrenders, puts a sackcloth and ropes around and begs for his life. Instead of eliminating the threat, Ahab calls his mortal enemy his brother, makes a quick trade treaty to secure commercial rights in Damascus, and lets him go free. This infuriates the prophetic order. One of the prophets performs a bizarre dark ritual that commands a fellow prophet to strike and wound him. When a man refuses, a lion instantly slays him for disobeying. A second man compels bruising the prophet and then uses bandages to disguise himself, waits for King Ahab on the road, and springs a trap of judgment. Spirit just told me, if you are listening to any creator on the platform, if you are a creator, you are a teacher. Whether you mean to be teaching or not, since the question was asked, are you a teacher? All creators are teachers. There's different levels of teaching. there's different places to teach at in regards to how you teach. Oh, and that is a mastermind class in itself that we won't be going through today, but that you should be aware of. You can be a teacher at a school, or you can be a teacher like Oprah Winfrey. Whichever one you choose is up to you. You can be teaching on YouTube, or you can be teaching at 10X conferences guided by Grant Cardone. Whatever you decide to teach and how you teach is up to you. There are different levels of teaching. Let's get back. Because you have let slip out of your hand the man whom I have devoted to destruction, therefore your life shall be for his life and your people for his people. 1 Kings 20:42. You can teach through poetry, you can teach through song, you can teach through rap. You can teach through music. Kendrick Lamar said, "We survived everything." The music. Teach. Because you have let slip out of your hand the man whom I have devoted to destruction, therefore your life shall be his life and your people for his people. 1 Kings 20:42. Ahab goes back to his palace in Samaria, resentful and sullen. He won the dictatorial war, but is treating the DNA-soaked geopolitical tyrant with naive political leniency. He inadvertently signed his own spiritual no longer be alive warrant. In the patriarchal matrix of the ancient Near East, royal women and children were viewed as top-tier commodities, properties, treated much like gold bullion or pedigree, livestock. Ben-Hadad's advisors would have selected them based on 3 specific ruthless criteria. High-value political hostages, lineage. Ben-Hadad didn't want just random women. He wanted the daughters of foreign kings whom Ahab had married to form alliances, which would include Jezebel's attendants. Though Jezebel herself was likely too powerful and dangerous to be easily handed over. The goal, by taking the children of the royal lineage, Ben-Hadad was securing hostages. If he held Ahab's sons, Israel could never launch a rebellion or a counterattack without risking the immediate execution of the next generation of heirs. It was a complete political castration of Ahab's future dynasty. Eugenics, youth, and physical perfection. The term best told in Hebrew, meaning good, beautiful, or choice, meant the scouts were looking for specific physical traits. For the wives, they selected the youngest, healthiest, and most physically flawless women in a world when royal women were viewed as a vessel for breeding alliance. Beauty and youth equated to genetic premium. For the children, they looked for boys who were strong, unblemished, and intelligent enough to be trained as elite servants of eunuchs in the Syrian court, and young girls who could eventually be married off to the Syrian generals to expand Ben-Hadad's loyalty. Total humiliation and dominance. From a psychological warfare perspective, demanding a king's wives and children was the ultimate flex of absolute dominance. In ancient warfare, entering another ruler's harem and taking the women was a public declaration that the reigning king was completely impotent, unable to protect even the most private, sacred, and fiercely guarded spaces of his kingdom. It broke the psychic morale of the entire nation before a single sword was even drawn. The esoteric reality, by demanding the seed, children, and the creator, wives, Ben-Hadad was attempting to legally and energetically absorb the entire vital force of Israel into the Syrian Empire. It is what made Ahab's initial passive compliance so utterly spineless, and why the elders of the land finally stepped in and told him, "Do you not listen or consent. When you integrate these hidden texts into the timeline, the entire narrative flips. The books were deliberately excluded from the standard canon because they expose the metaphysical machinery behind the veil. That would be the hidden books that we've been reading in between, such as the Book of Adam and Eve 1 and 2, Book of Enoch 1, 2, and 3, and the Testament of Solomon, which was absolutely delicious. Where the official Bible teaches passive obedience and attributes everything to an angry deity, these apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts teach cosmic warfare, genetic manipulation, angelology, love angelology, and practical demon binding. Let's dig into it, shall we? The books of Adam and Eve, Book 1 and 2, the core teaching, the traumatic density of the flesh. The official Genesis story glosses over what happened immediately after the expulsion from Eden. These books act as a raw, psychological, and energetic case study of the transition from light beings to dense physical matter. Baby, talk about being in a rush. Got the whole page upside down. Wait a minute, boo. There we go. The shock of physicality. Adam and Eve are depicted as experiencing severe sensory and energetic trauma. In Eden, they were nourished by divine light and had translucent bodies, thrust into the cave of treasures on earth and suddenly blinded by physical darkness, choked by the heavy atmosphere, and horrified by the base needs of physical biology, hunger, DNA, and excretion. I'm thinking of Leviticus when I read that because it has so many rituals and rules and laws in regards to physical biology. They tried to commit no longer being alive multiple times out of the sheer grief for their lost energetic vibration, the shadow war. The text details a constant tactical psychological war waged by Satan, who repeatedly shifts his shape into an angel of light, a priest, or a guide to trick them. It teaches that the physical plane is a highly deceptive matrix where entities constantly manipulate human emotional vulnerability to detain their vitality. Hello, Rasal Sadi Cove 77. Oh, I love that. 7. RASULSADIQOV. Okay. The Book of Enoch 1, 2, and 3, the core teaching, the Watcher Current, and the Cosmic Ascension. This is the ultimate forbidden knowledge. The Book of Enoch provides the absolute context for the cosmic corruption that necessitated the flood, blowing the lid off the Watcher intervention. 200 Watchers descend, teach forbidden arts, human society programmed. Nephilim hybrids created, consume resources, planetary chaos. First Enoch, the Book of the Watchers, teaches that 200 high-level celestial entities, watchers led by Sim-Jah and Azazel, rebelled against cosmic order, descended to Mount Hermon, and bound the temples with a multiple DNA oath. They interbred with human women, creating the violent Nephilim hybrids. Crucially, they target humanity, the forbidden arts of the cosmos, metallurgy, weapons, metallurgy, astronomy, astrology, pharmacology, root cutting, sorcery, and glamour, makeup, jewelry, and eye paint, the exact arts Jezebel later weaponized. Second Enoch, the secrets of Enoch explores Enoch's physical and astral ascension through the seven heavens. It functions as a cosmic map detailing the precise celestial architecture, the prisons where rebellious angels are kept in chains of darkness, and the mechanics of the planetary spheres. One of my favorite books of Enoch. And when I thought of the Book of the Watchers, I don't know if y'all remember that movie. Oh, I forget his name. Oh my gosh. It's a movie called Angels, I want to say. And Sarah McLachlan sung this song, a song called Angel, during the movie, In the Arms of an Angel. And I want to say they got the idea for the movie probably from First Enoch, the Book of the Watchers. Third Enoch, the Hebrew book of Enoch, deals with high-level Kabbalistic transformation. It teaches how the mortal man Enoch ascended to the highest realm and was physically transfigured into Metatron, the supreme angel, the lesser Yahweh, whose body turned to celestial fire and possesses 365,000 eyes to view the cosmos. It teaches the ultimate potential of human energetic evolution. That should be a movie. The Testament of Solomon, in movie theaters, because there's plenty to watch on YouTube when I Googled it. The core teachings, geotetic demonology, and practical binding. If First King shows King Solomon as a wise, wealthy builder, the Testament of Solomon exposes him as a ruthless, ceremonial magician and exorcist. This text is the foundation blueprint for all Western geotic magic and grimoire traditions. The Ring of Power, Solomon is given a magical signet ring by the Archangel Michael engraved with seal of God, the pentagram of hexagram. This ring allows him to physically lock into energetic frequency to any spirit and force it into submission. The enslavement of the Geotia. Solomon systematically summons the most powerful demons of the air, earth, and underworld, including Beelzebub, Asmodeus, and various planetary spirits. He interrogates them, forcing them to reveal their name and hidden functions, what specific zodiac signs or constellations they govern, which specific angel has the power to bind them. The prison labor of the temple. Once he extracts their names and weaknesses, Solomon uses the ring to magically bind them into physical servitude. He forces the chaotic demonic entities to haul the massive stones and to lift the pillars and weave the golden chains for the temple. Why the priesthood had to hide them. Look at what these books teach compared to the canonical manual. Normal Bible. Humans are broken, guilty sinners who must fear God. Hidden text of destruction. Humans are spiritual beings trapped in these dense matter, recovering from trauma. A normal Bible. Evil is just a vague test of human disobedience. Hidden text. Systematic corruption was imported by rogue celestial entities who altered the genetic and technological grid. Rogue celestial entities. Come back to that later. Solomon, normal Bible. Solomon built the temple purely out of holy wisdom. Solomon built the temple using high-level ceremonial magic and enslaved demonic entities. By hiding these books, the institutional scribes kept humanity blind to the actual entities operating in the astral planes, blind to the true history of technology and magic, and utterly dependent on the priestly state grid for protection from a spiritual world they were no longer allowed to understand. We have to stop looking at these books as mystical fairy tales or forbidden spiritual truths and start looking at them as competing psychological and political software. When the early institutional church and the rabbinic council sat down to decide what went into the official Bible, the canon, and what got thrown into the trash pile, the apocrypha and the pseudepigrapha, they were doing a high-level content audit for empire management. The Book of Adam and Eve deconstructing the victim blame, the canon program. The fall is simple. Eve listened to a snake, ate an apple, and now women must suffer in childbirth and submit to their husbands is an ideological tool to justify the structural subjugation of woman. The deconstruction of the hidden text, the books of Adam and Eve, were likely written to process the intense ongoing collective trauma of human suffering by focusing on the sheer physical agony, blindness, and constant psychological shape-shifting tricks of the devil. This text actually humanizes the victims. Why it was banned. It makes Adam and Eve look sympathetic if humanity is portrayed as a profoundly traumatized, grieving victim of high-level spiritual gaslighting. Rather than a group of defiant, wicked rebels, the entire theological basis for an angry, punitive God who demands DNA sacrifice to be appeased completely falls apart. You cannot run a guilt-based control matrix if the people realize they are suffering from trauma, not a criminal record. The books of Enoch, deconstructing divine responsibility. The canon program, the official narrative states that the world became wicked because humans chose to sin, so God was justified by drowning everyone in a global flood. It puts 100% of the blame on the human population. Deconstructing First Enoch completely blows the whistle on cosmic corruption. It states that human civilization was functioning until high-level state actors from the heavens, the Watcher stage, and managed an illegal intervention. They brought advanced military technology, chemical unaliving, systemic grammar, and genetic engineering, Nephilim that completely hijacked the natural human trajectory. Why it was banned. It shifts the blame upward. It shows that humanity was corrupted from above, weaponized by predatory entities who abuse their power. Furthermore, Third Enoch shows a mortal human, Enoch, ascending the celestial ranks to become Metatron. The supreme cosmic architect, this is highly dangerous to a centralized priesthood. If a human can evolve into a higher being than the angels without a temple, a priest, or an animal sacrifice, the entire Levite priesthood becomes obsolete. The Testament of Solomon, deconstructing holy authority, the canon program, the official books of Kings and Chronicles present Solomon's temple as a pristine, holy, divine, ordained project built by pure wisdom, architectural genius, and paid labor. It sanctifies the physical location of the state church. The deconstruction of the hidden text. This text exposes the absolute grimy shadow work reality of state building. It reveals that the ultimate temple of the state religion was physically built on forced demonic labor and bound entities. Is this starting to sound familiar at all? Solomon isn't a pious saint. He is a cold-calculating occult technocrat weaponizing a ring to build a massive energetic cage. Solomon's ring tech binds geotic spirits, forces construction of a temple. Holy sanctuary exposed, built on shadow labor. We did shadow work week 2 because, matter of fact, we concentrated on shadow work a few days. Oh, yeah, baby. Shadow work. Spell number 6. Meet the shadow. Your shadows work, baby. Baby hates work. Shadow number 6, meet the shadow for 40 money spells. 40 money spells, spell number 7, shadow immersion. If you need to revisit those videos. 6, 7. Why it was banned. It exposes the hypocrisy of institutional holiness. It reveals that the Holy of Holies shares a structural foundation with the demonic underworld. If the public realized that the grand cathedral of a temple of the state was engineered through the manipulation of dark planetary spirits, the Getia, Goetia. By the way, I first learned about Getia before I even read the Testament of Solomon when I was investigating cost and things of what witches charged on Etsy. Just go ahead and type in on the Etsy, Goetia, and see what it brings up. The illusion of pure divine right is shattered. It strips the state religion of its moral high ground and exposes it as a high-stakes game of spiritual power and control. The ultimate deconstruction takeaway. The books that made the cut into the official Bible are design choices meant to produce a submissive, fearful, label-ready population that project, because we don't want you to think for yourself. We want to tell you how to think and behave and assimilate. Oh, baby, this is good. The books that were left out, like Enoch, Adam and Eve, and the Testament of Solomon, were written by sub-faction mystics and rogue scribes who wanted to map out the actual rules of the simulation. They were banned not because they were false, but because they gave away the magician's secret. They show that the physical plane is an energetic battleground of trauma, that technology and vanity were imported tools of control, and that the grandest religious institutions were built by shackling the very shadows they claim to protect you from. The end of 1 Kings 20 is a bizarre, dark psychological drama that exposes the cutthroat reality of an ancient prophetic politics. It showcases exactly what happens when a weak-willed king steps out of alignment with the fierce, uncompromising national egregore he serves. Ahab's bad treaty, the sovereign blunder. After the Israelites completely decimate the Siren army on the plains, the defeated Syrian king Ben-Hadad surrenders in absolute humiliation. He puts on a sackcloth, ties a rope around, and begs for mercy. Instead of eliminating a dangerous geopolitical threat, Ahab's ego is flattened. He calls his mortal enemy his brother, invites him into his royal chariot, and cuts a fast political trade deal. Promises to return some stolen cities and gave Ahab commercial rights to set up bazaars in Damascus. Ahab lets him go scot-free. Where they do that at? The bruised prophet and the apparently in the Bible. The bruised prophet and the lion, the initiation ritual. I can do that there. Okay. The political leniency completely infuriates the radical prophetic order to deliver a message of judgment to Ahab. One of the sons of the prophets orchestrates a shocking symbolic piece of ritual theater. The command, driven by the word of Yahweh, this prophet commands a fellow practitioner to strike and wound him by the word of Yahweh. No refusal. The second man refuses to do it, likely out of the respect or fear of harming a brother. The lion attacked. The prophet tells him, because you have not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, as soon as you leave me, a lion shall you. The moment the man walks away, a lion springs out of the bush and on the spot. This terrifying moment reinforces the brutal programming of the system. Absolute blind obedience to the vocal command of the hierarchy is demanded even if the command seems irrational or violent. The second attempt, the prophet finds another man and says, "Strike me." This man complies, beating and wounding the prophet until his DNA is spilling over. The trap is sprung on the road. The wounded prophet wraps a bandage over his eyes to disguise his identity as a holy man. He stands by the road waiting for King Arab's royal chariot to pass by. As the king rolls up, the disguised prophet yells out a fake story to trap him. "Your servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a soldier turned and brought a man to me and said, Guard this man. If by any means he is missing, your life shall be for his life, or else you shall pay a talent of silver. But while your servant was busy here and there, he was gone." Ahab completely missed the trap, delivering a cold logistic judgment. So shall your judgment be. You yourself have decided it. The mask comes off, and the unaliving sentence. Instantly, the prophet rips the bandage away from his eyes. Ahab recognizes him as one of the radical seers we discussed, I believe, was it last week? The terms used in the Bible as far as magic, what they use in the Bible versus what they deem forbidden outside the Bible. Okay for them to do it, not okay for you to do it. I have to look through my book. I got a lot of stuff in my book I've discussed with you all. I'll have to look through my book and see what section that was. But it won't be right now. Thus says Yahweh, because you have let slip out of your hand the man whom I devoted to utter destruction. Now, why would Yahweh say that if this is the loving God? Therefore, your life should be for his life and your people for his people. Yeah, okay. By sparing a tyrant who the state egregore had devoted to destruction, Shirim, Cherem, the ritual practice of total annihilation, Ahab inadvertently traded his own life for Ben-Hadad's. He signed his own spiritual execution warrant. The very last verse of chapter 20 show Ahab immediate psychological collapse, and the king of Israel went to his house sullen and resentful and came to Samaria. He just won a massive, miraculous military victory against a global superpower, but returns to his capital completely miserable, paranoid, and brooding under the shadow of a prophetic curse, because there are all kinds of curses and hexes in the Bible. It sets his psychological state perfectly for the next chapter, where he throws a childish trauma over Naboth's vineyard, prompting Jezebel to step in and take over. At the end of 1 Kings 21, the narrative shifts into a stark psychological waiting room of impending doom. Sounds familiar. Folks can have everything they want a war, have rights stripped of others, and still be miserable. Ha! I think that's what Joy Reid said. You have everything you want and are still miserable. Colonizer consciousness is still miserable. Go figure. All right. After Jezebel orchestrates the legal annihilation of Naboth and Ahab takes physical possession of the vineyard, Elijah drops the ultimate karmic hammer. The very end of the chapter reveals a shocking, desperate maneuver by Ahab to deflect the sheer weight of the prophetic curse. Promises that dogs will lick Ahab's DNA in the exact dirt when Naboth is no longer living, and that his entire male lineage will be violently wiped out, and that Jezebel will be torn apart and eaten by wild dogs, and the city ditches Ahab's fragile ego, completely shatters. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't call his guards. The weight of the words completely paralyzes him. And it came to pass when Ahab heard those words, and he tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went about dejectedly. 1 Kings 21:77. He is attempting an energetic inversion by stripping off his royal clothes, robe, putting on coarse sackcloth, the ancient uniform of grief, refusing food, and physically dragging his feet in deep depression. He is trying to signal the spiritual grid that he has completely broken his own pride. He is performing a heavy somatic ritual of submission to appease the angry egregore. The postponement of the timeline, this desperate divide. Ahab's sudden desperate dive into absolute humility actually forces a tactical pivot in the spiritual realm. The natural deity notices a shift in Ahab's personal frequency and speaks directly to Elijah. See how Ahab has humbled himself before me. Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the calamity in his days, but his son's days I will bring the calamity upon his house. 1 Kings 21:29. The ultimate deconstruction of the ending through an analytical lens, this closing twist is incredibly revealing about the nature of the institutional system running these books. The trap of generational punishment. Notice that God doesn't cancel the horrific curse, he merely postpones the execution date. The system is so deeply rooted in patriarchal intergenerational binding that it is completely normal to pass the DNA bill of a father's crimes directly to his innocent children. Ahab buys himself a peaceful retirement, but he will willingly sacrifices his sons and daughters to do it. This happens a lot in this Bible. I mean, my gosh. Where is the love? Where is the love? The behavioral loop. The ending reinforces the absolute core programming of the entire Deuteronomic matrix. Total submission to the prophet, word delays destruction. The system doesn't demand actual moral righteousness. After all, Naboth is still not alive. His family is still ruined, and the vineyard is still stolen property. The system demands compliance to the authority of the voice. Because Ahab bowed his head to the prophet, his dynastic execution was moved down the calendar. Ahab leaves chapter 21 having secured a temporary ceasefire with the unseen forces, but the DNA spiritual contract is officially locked in the ether. Chapter 22, the timeline catches up to him and he has to face the music. Let's talk tarot. Cards. Speaking of tarot cards, I normally don't play with a regular deck. If you've been listening to me, I normally play with a Paticas of Orishas or a New Orleans voodoo deck. But since I've been reading this lovely book, and writing down the equivalents on the side of it, almost done with the book. I got less than 100 pages left. In the last chapter, Ophelis is like, you're going to get to know these cards. Yeah. He starts giving the description of each card in a normal deck on page 395. He doesn't start his deck with the full. He starts his deck with the Magician. He ends the deck with the full. And I had no clue the original the deck, the meanings between each of the cards, because I don't study that until now. The only one he's missing is card 23, because a regular deck does not have 23 cards. A voodoo deck does. And it's called the wild card. Hello, I'm the wild card. So we're going to bring the Geed family to the table. Geed, G-U-G-H-E-U-D-E. All right, so we're going to go through this real quick. The Emperor reversed, Loco reversed. Upright position, the Emperor represents structural stability, protective boundaries, and just leadership. When corrupted or reversed, it represents the epitome of colonizer consciousness. The alignment, it manifests as a rigid authoritarian control dominant behavior born out of deep insecurity and the enforcer of artificial hierarchies. The uniform, clothing, and masked face from this weekend from the Patriot group, where you see the black girl who went viral. Don't nobody know her name, because I didn't try to Google her name. If you know her name, drop it in the comments. Represent an attempt to project an illusion of absolute imperial order and power over an environment, masking internal lack of true sovereignty. The devil. The devil card represents bondage, material entrapment, and the illusion of separation. It governs systems that keep individuals trapped in fear-based mental loops or tribalism. The alignment. It aligns directly with the devil is Coeur Mardi Gras in the voodoo deck. It aligns directly with the analogy of supremacy, which relies on the belief that one group must dominate another to survive. It captures the psychological entrapment of the men in the mask, who are entirely bound to a rigid dogma, trapped in a collective shadow, and reacting out of a primal fear of losing control of the physical landscape. The tower, which is deluge in the voodoo deck. The tower represents the sudden violent disruption of artificial structures built on a false foundation. It is a card of institutional collapse and the breaking of illusions. The alignment, while groups operating under this consciousness attempt to assert permanence and dominance, their actions are often a desperate, reactive response to a changing world. The tower reminds us that structures built on oppression, exclusion, and fear are inherently unstable and destined to fracture under the weight of the truth. From a psychological and systemic perspective, the fear driving the specific consciousness hold boils down to desperate terror of extinction, exposure, and the loss of unearned dominion. When you strip away the theatrical flags and the uniform bravado, their entire existence is a reactive coping mechanism for several deep-seated anxieties. The terror of the mirror, loss of illusion. We're into some mirror magic right now. This would be the moon card. Magic mirror at the core of narcissism. A fragile manufactured identity. They are terrified of looking into an honest mirror because it would force them to confront their own internal void. The masking. The white cloths obscuring their faces aren't just to avoid legal or professional consequences. They are psychological shields. To show their faces is to be seen as ordinary, flawed individuals rather than imposing monolithic force. They fear being exposed as a small, which is why they must submerge their individuality into a rigid collective identity. The illusion of scarcity and replacement. Colonizer consciousness operates entirely on a zero-sum material world frequency, the lower vibrations of the devil card, Coeur Mardi Gras. It dictates that someone else to gain sovereignty, space, or resources, something must violently be stripped away from them. The existential panic. They view the natural evolution of a diverse society not as progress, but as an existential threat, popularized by their fixation on the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. They fear that if they are no longer the default rulers of the structure, they will be subjected to the same subjugation they have historically inflicted on others, the collapse of artificial hierarchy. The architecture of dominance requires constant maintenance. Deep down, there is an acute awareness that their perceived narcissism is an artificial construct, not a natural law. The response to stillness. Know how the passenger's calm, centered presence completely subverts their theater. She is not reacting to their intimidation. This terrifies an authoritarian mindset because their power requires compliance or terror to exist. When faced with an unshakable internal sovereignty that refuses to mirror their fear back to them, the illusion of their absolute control begins to fracture. They are marching because the walls of their artificial castle are crumbling, and they are terrified of what happens when they have to stand on equal ground without a structure to protect their privileges. The reality of the grid, Black woman, undefended. When you strip away the theories, the base reality of this image is a Black woman trapped in a tight, enclosed physical space, surrounded by a mob that represents systemic historical and physical elimination, the intersection of targets. She's in exact crosshairs of Black femicide and institutionalized hatred. In America, a Black woman navigating public space is often the least protected demographic, carrying the weight of both racialized terror and gender-based violence. The power imbalance. She didn't ask to be a symbol. She was likely just trying to get from point A, like most of us, to point B. She has no weapon, no shield, no squad, and no structural defense. The state infrastructure, the transit system brought that mob right to her seat and left her to sit in it. The extractive lens, someone else held the camera. Her terror, her forced composure, her vulnerability were captured, uploaded, and turned into a viral commodity. She is anonymous to the internet, stripped of her name, while her image is used by others for content, commentary, and text. She is entirely exposed. Redefining the problem and the solution. To say I have been busy is the least. If the problem is that a Black woman can be completely undefended, anonymous, and surrounded by targeted hate in a public space, then the solution cannot just be a personal, individual escape hatch. It has to address the raw vulnerability of being a Black woman in a system built on that exact suppression. When we talk about solving the problem from a position of deep knowledge, having read the text, understood the history, and seen the cosmic and earthly chessboards, the responsibility changes. The solution isn't about teaching her to build a platform. It is about how those who do have the knowledge and resources build actual physical and systemic forces that protect the undefended. If we look at this through the lens of absolute realism, what does real protection and defense look like for a Black woman on the ground when the structures around her offer none? The core community recognition. She made history. This young lady just made history. Below it, a recommended video appears titled I'm gonna skip all that. Her position on the train was not an isolated incident, but a stark manifestation of the structural matrix designed to isolate and intimidate. Straight to the point, no chaser. Whew. A lot of the comments sections of such videos are reacting to physical confinement. The train represents a closed grid where safety was stripped away in real time, forcing an anonymous person to become a historical monument of endurance just by trying to exist. These commentary videos generate views and engagement, but they exist safely. After the fact, the solution cannot rely on retroactively analyzing trauma. Public infrastructure failed to ensure her basic safety, allowing an organized intimidation group to corner her. We must look at the commentary surrounding it, and the next building block requires shifting from witnessing her vulnerability to creating impermeable boundaries. Woo! One person sitting behind her said she was okay, nothing was said, and everyone got to their destinations on time and safe. If you were sitting behind her, you are one of the people with their face covered. The lesson. The system will always attempt to use proximity to claim nothing happened because no psychological DNA was spilled. It treats a closed-space psychological ambush as a routine, orderly commute. Countering this angle requires calling out the violence nature of forced intimidation, regardless of whether words were spoken. A version of America that too many people still romanticize. They can make you suffer, but they can't make you surrender. This bypasses completely the biological reality of the woman sitting there. And let's pull you back to the focus of the human nervous system. I'm sure she probably felt terrified and frightened. We might have to walk through those emotions later using emotional intelligence. The outside world romanticizes her stoicism as a political victory. She didn't surrender, but on the ground, a black woman being forced to hold her breath, freeze her face, and endure an adrenaline spike just to survive a train ride is a form of structural violence. We cannot let her forced survival be rebranded as a trump of courage without acknowledging the terror imposed on her. I wish I could be sitting there with her. I wish I was there to support her and no one there to sit with her. Okay, this highlights the complete isolation of the grid. The internet feels empathy after the algorithm delivers the image to their screens, but in the physical room, she was completely on her own. The comment reveals a collective desire for community defense, but a systemic failure to provide it in real time. Empathy on a screen does not protect a body in a room. To counter what has been done and prevent harm, the strategy must evolve beyond just filming the aftermath or leaving comments. We have to look at how we take the collective instincts shown in these screenshots, the desire to protect, to witness, and to refuse the gaslighting, and turn it into concrete, unshakable boundaries on the ground. Okay. Now her garment said original. Even without her consciously planning a statement, her presence itself carries an ancient foundational truth. The contrast becomes definitive, an original indigenous presence sitting firmly in her seat, while a manufactured mass group of historical revisionists try to crowd her out. When the public system fails to protect Black people, the exhaustion pushes some to romanticize historical eras of forced separation just to find safety. The rhyming of history isn't a coincidence. It happens because the underlying structural vulnerability of public transit and public space has never been truly fixed. Black women have historically been left unprotected and exposed to the specific brand of public ridicule and intimidation. This is how many Black people showing up to work every day. I call it code switch around here. This shatters the illusion that this viral moment is rare, freak occurrence for millions of working people navigating hostile physical territory, unsafe public transit, and unpredictable environments is just a standard Tuesday. This woman didn't choose to participate in a historical protest. She was trapped on her daily commute. The most critical revelation of this new drawing board comes from a top comment. I shiver at the thought of there being no cameras, no mobile phones able to record. I shiver to consider how they may have looks like a moment of shock and disbelief paralyzing her. This is the ultimate bottom line of the problem. Her safety in that moment was entirely contingent on the visibility of the train car and the digital eyes of the public. If that train went into a dead zone, if the power went out, or if no, cameras were rolling, the capacity for severe physical harm expands exponentially. The comment correctly identifies her stillness not as passive bravery, but as the survival reflex of a human body processing shock while completely cornered. And we will lay the bricks of the first stones of the solution on Hump Day, of course. All right. 50 p.m. We're going to get into our next spell. Oh, if you need prosperity tassels, because yesterday was prosperity tassels, I do have them on my Amazon affiliate page. Okay? You need some magic kits, I have those there as well. Also, incense, essential oils, sage sticks packages, those are all now on my Amazon affiliate page. All right. So you can contribute to your summer vibes while we are on this mission together. Spell 28, Trust Sigil. Notes on this spell, I created the sigil below as my trust sigil represents a solid base, the pyramid with a diamond atop and an arrow pointing to upper dimensions. I drew the sigil over and over while feeling the feelings of immense trust. Step 1, decide to trust. Step 2, create your own sigil that represents trust to you. Keep it simple. It can be any shape, size, or color you desire as long as it triggers trust in your subconscious. Draw it over and over in your wealth grandma until your trust till you trust deeply. Feel free to use this trust sigil if you desire. Remember, a sigil must be drawn with your hands, not created on a tech device such as your phone or tablet. And this is the trust sigil. Hold on, honey, because we done been through a lot of information. Wait a minute. I don't have it with me. But when I went down to Miami to meet Rev and Harmony at a party, the Wealthy Goddess party, she gave out necklaces with sigils on them. That was pretty great. It was black and gold and came on a blue string. And then she also talked about some of the things that I have on my page now, like the essential oils and the importance of those. She had her essential oil kit with her. This is when after I had practiced witchcraft by myself to practicing witchcraft with other people during full moon parties, to getting to know who Val was, to going to meet her in Florida once I started reading her books, and purchasing them and attending classes with her and taking mastermind classes. So I hope you get to the point where you trust enough that you put out your creations, that you teach classes on your creations, that you host retreats based off your creations, that you travel with your creations, and that they expand the knowledge needed to your tribe and make your bank account bountiful. Yeah. Trust sigil. All right. Absolutely delicious that we have completed the next spell. I will see you tomorrow. I do have a meeting at 7 a.m., but I think, business meeting, but I think that is sufficient enough time to get whatever I need done tomorrow before we meet up again. All right, it's been scrumptious, and I wrote down some things to carry with us for tomorrow's meeting, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Tuesday. All right, love doers. Mwah.